Well, I guess I'll start back from the time that we first bought our property here. Before we purchased our property, we would come to visit Claude's sister, whose house was right next door. So we were visiting in the neighborhood about 3 or 4 years before we actually purchased. But we always saw this house, and there was no one here except for the month of August. So we had spoken to them several times and said, well, if you ever want to sell, let us know. So they said, well, we're not going to sell until our mother passed away because she does not want us to sell. So when the mother passed away, then they told us that the house would be up for sale. And we put the contract in and we bought it back then. And by the way, it was one of the first houses that was built here in Arundel on the Bay. I think it was finished like in 1887 or something like that.
You don't know anybody who's gone back that far, do you?
Oh, I don't. No. I guess I should tell you how much it cost. $27,000.
Oh.
$27,000.
$27,000.
But it was a nice 2-story house with complete wraparound porches. Really nice for a summer resort. Started doing a lot of work on it to kind of upgrade it somewhat, but it was a very slow process for us. But one of the greatest problems that we had here for the first 8 years were people started coming down here fishing, because that was a great fishing season during those years. The large blues were coming in. I mean, they were huge, and people from Baltimore, Washington, and all over were coming to catch the fish. So we had problems even getting to our property once we drove down here, because the cars were parked all up and down this part of Magnolia Avenue. There were no security officers. Mr. Grigsby was the community kind of watchdog over the community, but he tried to stop it, but he had no enforcement powers to take care of the situation. Then there was a large storm that came by on a Sunday afternoon, and it blew over 2 large trees, blew them over onto the house. We were supposed to have come down 2 or 3 days later to have the trees cut off, but the day before we were to come down to have the trees removed from the house, we got a call early one morning that the house was on fire. So our house was burned completely to the ground, and so was the house next door, and the 3rd house was damaged. So we felt that it could have been the result of the trees that had fallen over, because the electricity had not been turned off, I guess, which it should have been. But then there were some people that were fishing, and I think they were a little disgusted with us because we were trying to control the area ourselves, which was a very dangerous thing to do by us being right here in close proximity to the fishing area. And they might have been a little disgruntled, so we don't know. There was a gas can that was found over on the porch out there, so we never really knew exactly what happened, but I like to think that it was the trees that, was resting on electrical wires, and they just broke and started the fire. I went to the meeting shortly after then, to the Property Owners Association meeting, and I made a very passionate plea about them stopping the traffic on this street end. And I can't remember all that I said, but I must have said an awful lot because I was nominated to run for president.